Today's agenda is simple. You and I are going to take a little walk through the patch notes of this update, and I'm going to break down the big changes as well as the stars of the show. I have had all day to experiment with these things in Helldive, so you know what to expect at the upper echelon of difficulty. Trust me when I say these changes were overall vastly beneficial. Don't buy into the naysayers. A lot of needed changes were addressed. I will say this beforehand. My video capturing software jacked up a lot of recordings, which unfortunately means I don't have clips using every tool. However, that means you get a great deal of this video showing off the prima ballerina from the update. The insatiable, headshot-craving demon that the Diligence counter-sniper has become. We can talk about weapons first, because that's what most people are here for. Starting off strong, we have the exploding crossbow. This has been given a slightly smaller explosion, increased stagger, a decreased number of maximum mags from 12 to 8, you'll see that a lot throughout this. Increased number of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8, you'll also see a lot of that in here. A slight reduction in mobility, and an increased muzzle velocity. The biggest changes here are that the bullet now flies farther and faster. However, it does have a smaller explosion on contact. This did two things. One, you can't really shoot at the ground for that giant chaff-clearing explosion that you used to have. But, if you're being chased and you shoot something right next to you, you're probably not dying now. The main issue I have with this is they really toned down the explosion. I think if they met it halfway from what it was to what it is now, it would be perfect. You would have nailed it. Because the muzzle velocity is perfect. They nailed it. It behaves like an actual crossbow now. It's just a matter of the explosion size. And I think they tried to tweak it with the increased stagger effect, but what good is stagger if you're not killing it, right? Anyway, overall, I think it's still an okay weapon. You just have to pay attention to your shots a little more now. On to the Quasar cannon. Sizable nerf here. Increased recharge time by 5 seconds. Now, this one I don't totally get. I'm fine with it, because I said this was going to happen a long time ago. You can actually catch it in one of the videos I've got with a terrible thumbnail. It looks so ugly. I totally understand not clicking it. Don't worry about that. It was hideous, but anyway. This is sizable. This is a big punch. It was definitely due to spamming, like they were trying to cut down on that clearly. However, 2.5 seconds would have done it. 5 seconds in a firefight is a lot of time to have your gun not working, especially when your gun has a charge-up effect as well. So, I would try to use this particularly on cold planets now. That brings us along to the Adjudicator. Now, if you're anything like me, you were waiting with bated breath to see what they did with this gun, because there was public outcry with how bad this thing was initially. It's an interesting change. I'm not gonna lie, it's interesting. I can't say it's good or bad, because we lost a DMR, we got an assault rifle. That's effectively what happened. Full auto is the default firing mode, reduced recoil, increased maximum mags from 6 to 8, increased number of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8, and it's now placed amongst assault rifles. And, to be honest, it's the best assault rifle. Other than that, there's not too much of note. We lost a DMR, but don't you worry, we got a much better one in spades later. Just trust me. Now we got the laser cannon, and it's positive, but it's nothing to write home about. Now, there's a slight increase in damage, however, there's a slight reduction in damage versus large volume bodies. So big things like Hulks are going to take a little more time, but it's not that much more time. It's really no different than it was before on the big ones. However, it is noticeably better at clearing things like chaff. So, generally, not bad. Pretty okay change. Punisher Plasma. Decreased maximum mags from 12 to 8. Increased amount of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8. increased projectile speed with a similar range, decreased damage fall off on the explosion, and it's now placed on the energy weapons category. Overall, despite the ammo knock, it is a positive change. Don't you worry about that if you like this gun. It's faster shooting, and it's got a better explosion. That's all you really need to know. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got our first featured showcase here in the form of the Blitzer. Increased shots per minute from 30 to 45, and it's now placed in the energy weapons category. I know, what seems like one buff doesn't seem like enough to put this above a whole lot of things. However, I will tell you right now, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try to use this weapon against bugs. Seriously, it is pretty much the premier in dealing with them up close now. The downtime is out the window, the stun time is up to the roof. Use it. Moving on to a former breakout star, we have the Eruptor. Decreased number of maximum mags from 12 to 6, explosion damage drops off slightly faster. I know some people are going to be upset about this, but realistically, it's a fair enough change. You can still just wipe piles of grunts off the map. You can still one-shot Devastators. You just got to get a little closer now. That's pretty much it. I mean, the ammo change didn't matter that much because realistically, you were resupplying before the time that you got down to your 6th magazine anyway. Sickle. Decreased amount of magazines from 6 down to 3. Honestly, once again, not a bad change. The gun has infinite ammo. Just stop firing sooner. You never should have been going through a magazine for it to begin with. Scythe got a buff. Increased damage from 300 to 350. I'm still not using it, damn it. And a decreased max number of mags from 6 down to 4. Once again, it's a laser weapon. Just don't let it overheat and you'll be fine. We got railgun changes, kiddos. Increased armor penetration in both safe and unsafe mode with a slightly reduced stagger force, which is fine because the railgun isn't meant to stagger, it's meant to pierce material. This is kind of just going in line with what a railgun should be. I'm favorable for it. I honestly can't see much difference in what it was to what it is now, but that's pretty much because I'm just using it to headshot Hulks and Devastators and just instantly wipe them off the map. So, I don't know, if you like to shoot the front of tanks, I guess it's okay. Heavy machine gun. Congratulations, you got a third-person crosshair now. That's it. On to our star of stars, the lead acting role in the play, the Diligence Counter Sniper. Damage increased from 128 to 140. Ergonomics improved. That means a mobility increase. This gun, provided you can aim, is the best primary for fighting bots right now. I'll tell you why, don't worry. I want to be really clear about this. It can one-shot any grunt to the body. Okay, I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but just hear me out here. It can one-shot Devastators if you hit them in the head. You need to use this gun should you have the ability to use it. Because, once again, it one-shots Devastators with headshots now. It is insane. It's a goddamn demon, okay? Seriously, I can't advocate for this thing anymore. Once I picked it up, once I started using it, because I had the sneaking suspicion it could do this with the damage increase, this is the peak for primary weapons against bots. Have Devastators been a problem for you? Don't worry, Diligence Counter Sniper has a solution for that. It's called just long-range facial ventilation. You need to use this. I'm not going to say it again, but seriously, pick it up. Start firing. Standard Diligence got a little baby buff, 112 to 125, but oh my god, use the counter sniper. Just do it. Redeemer, slight increase in recoil, we could all kind of see that coming. And Peacemaker, slight increase to damage, 60 to 75, we could also probably see that coming. Fair enough on both accords. This one is gonna make a lot of people happy.
Senator. Increased damage from 150 to 175. Speedloader added when reloading to an empty cylinder. Speeds up reload on empty considerably.
We finally got it, boys. And girls. We finally got it. Speedloaders. At long last, we have a speedloader. This is fantastic. I could not ask for more. I applaud you, Arrowhead. Honestly, ever since the Railgun came out, we were asking for it, and you guys delivered. Fantastic. Can't complain. 10 out of 10. These next ones are going to be quick because it's kind of unremarkable. Dagger, increased damage 150 to 200. Liberator, increased damage 55 to 60. Liberator concussive, increased damage from 55 to 65. Dominator, decreased damage 300 to 275. Don't worry, it doesn't make that much of a difference at all. Guard Dog, decreased damage by 30%. This is probably just going to result in you dying less when you get sweeped over the head. Airburst rocket launcher has been fixed, and my god is it fun to fight bugs with it. No longer detonating, shooting new stratagems and other Helldivers, it works fantastically. Also, it's got a reduced proximity radius, so once again, you're blowing yourself up less. One last weapon that was tweaked was the spear. It's a little faster on the reload side of things, but the big change to it is coming in the future, not too long, don't worry. Machine Gun Sentry has health boosted because, I don't know, people were trying to use it for some reason. Don't use the Machine Gun Sentry, kids. Use the Gatling Sentry. And Tesla Tower, increased health by 33%. Congratulations, that just means we're probably shooting them more once they get dropped. Now we're on to armor, and you're going to want to listen to this. Armors with armor rating above 100 now also reduce damage on headshots, and burning damage is reduced by 15% across all armors. This is going to be the best change in aggregate to one other thing coming down the list later. The best change out of this entire patch. On the bug side of things, bile spewers and nursing spewers move speed slightly reduced, and fog generators' health and armor increased. Don't worry, 2 eats still take it out just fine. Hulks. This is the big thing I was talking about earlier. Scorcher direct flamethrower damage reduced by 20%. No more Hulk one-shots from the flamethrower. Fantastic change. Could not be happier. Also, the force required to stagger them is slightly increased, but you'll be fine. The one-shot was the issue. Devastator fire rate slightly increased, but it's only standard Devastators, not miniguns or missiles. Gunship sideways movement is slightly increased. It's not that bad. Scout Strider Riders now less vulnerable to explosions. Once again, not that bad, especially if you're a Scorcher player. It makes negligible difference. Gunship spawners now have a much lower cap on how many gunships they can have active at the same time. Another fantastic quality of life change. Sounds great to me. Less gunships in the sky at a maximum. Great. This one is very controversial, but it makes sense if you just hear me out here. Patrol spawning has been increased when there are fewer than 4 players. Hold on. The fewer the players, the bigger the change. Hold on. For 4-player missions, there will be no change compared to before. Hold on. The biggest noticeable change will be for solo players at higher difficulties. Hold on, I will explain this. People think this means you're getting a massive patrol buff, when in reality, it's just being brought in line to what the 4 people are dealing with. So as opposed to having a reduced patrol spawn rate as solos had before, encouraging playing alone and without people, instead, it is at the same level that you would play with if you had 4 people. So you're just being brought up to level, as opposed to having the game brought down. I hope that makes sense. It's not that bad of a change. It makes sense. If you get into that difficulty, you should be ready to play with what that difficulty will provide, whether it be 1 player, be 4 players, because if you're not, it's always an option to tune down the difficulty, and there's nothing wrong with that. Little gameplay changes, made minor level generation improvements to how we distribute locations throughout the mission map, so like,
If you're using those ones where you grab the SSD and you sprint around, they're going to be a little closer now, so it's pretty nice. Added settings in the options menu gameplay section to disable automatic climbing and vaulting while sprinting. That's a fantastic change. I know a ton of people are happy about that. The Spread Democracy mission, otherwise known as Raise the Flag, can now be enjoyed on higher difficulties. When readying up, Helldivers now salute to ensure maximum democratic readiness. That's a cool little thing to add in. It wasn't too big of a change, but it's a nice little sprinkle. I liked it a lot. Added ambiance to the Tremor Planetary Hazard. So what effectively that's going to do is things are going to get a little quiet before a tremor hits, so you can kind of act accordingly. Shots that ricochet from heavy armored enemies will now properly hit the Helldiver who fired them. So if you're using something that's going to bounce off armor, be careful, because you might get hit back. There's a ton of bug fixes, but honestly, reading those will be so boring to you and me that our eyes are going to roll out of our heads. So if you really want those, you can read the patch notes. Just know it's better than it was, just like with most bug fixes. So, that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you were able to learn something and realize the outrage was not as bad as it's hyped up to be. And you guys have a good night. We'll see you next time.